Hello, my most amazing artists. How are all my superheroes doing today? I hope you're doing great because today we're going to be making onomatopoeia plaques. Can you believe that word? It's the most fun word to say. I think you should try to say it with me. We'll take it a little slow. How's that sound? Onomatopoeia. Let's put it all together. Onomatopoeia. And I say that should be our word for the day. So let's give it a whoop whoop. Onomatopoeia, whoop whoop, is a word that means a word that makes a sound. For example, pop is an onomatopoeia. It's a word that describes a sound. I have something here today called a sound machine. I'm gonna play a couple buttons on the sound machine and I want you to think of the onomatopoeia that goes with the sound. Let's see. So, boing, boing, boing. That would be an onomatopoeia. How about this one? Cha-ching. That's an onomatopoeia. What about... Womp womp. Oh, that's kind of the opposite of a whoop whoop. So today you are going to be thinking of an onomatopoeia for your superhero. So maybe it could be pop or bam or blam or kaboom. Be thinking about what kind of words you can use, and let's talk about the supplies we're going to need today. So we'll be using salt dough clay today. If you don't have the ingredients to make your own salt dough clay, salt dough clay, don't worry, I'll show you an alternative on how you can make a plaque like this with construction paper. So for your dough recipe, you'll need a 1/4 cup of salt, a 1/4 cup of water, a 1/2 cup of flour. I used a piece of cardboard for my plaque. I also used a hole puncher and a pipe cleaner to hang it. If you don't have a hole puncher, I can show you how to make a hole with a pencil. If you don't have a pipe cleaner, maybe thread or yarn would work. I also used crayons and a marker on the plaque itself. Okay, let's go ahead and say our art class catchphrase. I make messes. I make mistakes. But deep inside, I got what it takes. I am an artist. And let's leave that art as pinky up. I pinky promise that today I will do my best. I will keep a positive attitude and I will finish what I start. Mwah! All right, let's get started on our onomatopoeia plaques. So there's a couple of different ways that you can go about making your plaque. It can be something that you hang up like this, or it could be something that you cut out and make into a speech or maybe a thought bubble. The only problem I found when cutting out cardboard is it's really, really hard to cut cardboard. So I'm going to keep it simple today by keeping my cardboard a rectangle shape. But if you want to get fancy or if you have a grown-up around who can help you cut out a speech bubble shape, you could always do that too. When the speech bubble shape is cut out, you could glue another piece of cardboard to the back. I just used regular glue so that you could hold it up. So that's an idea for you, but today I'm going to use what you've probably got, which is a piece of cardboard. So the first thing I'm going to do is decorate the background. So before I decorate the background of my plaque, I need to think about what will my onomatopoeia be. If it's something like pop, then I might want to draw a background that kind of shows that something is popping or blowing up. If it's zoom, then maybe I want to use zigzag lines to show that it's going really fast. If you don't know what your word is yet, don't worry about it. You can just draw any kind of design you like. You know what? I'm not really sure what my word's going to be, so I'm just going to draw a nice big curved line, kind of like a cloud line that turns into a shape of a cloud, or maybe something like this. When I do this, I draw a curve and then maybe another curve, or maybe just bumps. You are the artist. It is up to you. All right, so there, notice I drew it nice and big. The reason I drew it big is because I need to kind of fit my letters inside, but you can see your letters can also overlap or pop out of the shape that you draw. Okay, now I'm going to color and I'm using crayons. The only problem is that the cardboard is brown, so it's a little bit hard to see, but that's okay. I'm just going to press nice and hard, so hard that I didn't almost break my crayon, I really did. So I'm creating a nice dark value. Now I know some of you guys like to color so super neat, and that's awesome. However, today you might want to consider your onomatopoeia. If it is pop, then you don't want to necessarily color everything nice and neat, but you want to have a line that shows that kind of movement or that sound. So I'm kind of coloring it in kind of neatly, mostly focusing on pressing nice and hard to fill in that space, but not too worried about getting it nice and neat. I'm using my lines to show movement, to show that something is popping or blamming or kazowing. All right, I'm gonna pick a contrasting color for the background. And that's really it. That's all I have to do for the background of my plaque. Next up will come making the salt dough. Now for the salt dough, just a reminder, you'll need salt and flour. If you don't have salt and flour, then you can just hang with me for a little bit longer. What I plan to do is show you how to make some construction paper onomatopoeias. So you could just watch, and then when you do get the supplies, you could always come back and make it along with me. All right, my background's finished. I'm ready to make my dough. Sorry, crayons. Okay, I have all of my supplies to make my salt dough clay. I've got a nice big bowl, and inside of my bowl, I've already put 1/4 cup of water. So that's already in my bowl. I'm making a small batch of clay. I don't need a lot. If you ever wanted more, you could just double the recipe. So what that means is I just used 1/4 cup of water. If I wanted to make a double recipe, I would multiply that times 2. That would give me 1/2 cup of water. All right, now I'm going to add 1/4 cup of salt. So the same amount of salt. And again, if I wanted to double it, then I would use 1/2 cup of salt. But that would make a lot of salt dough. And I'm trying to really be careful not to use too much of my supplies. So I'm only going to make a nice small batch. Notice how I keep shaking my cup and checking it. Because when you're making something, you need to make sure you get that recipe just right. Take it from me, I'm an expert. All right, next up is 1/2 cup of flour. Now, if I were doubling this recipe, that means I would be using a full cup. Ooh, I've been using a lot of my flour. You can see I'm starting to run out a little bit. All right, let's see if I can get 1/2 cup out of this little bag. Come on, little bag, you can do it. There we go. All right. Okay, let's shake this. That looks pretty good to me. There we go. All right, now I'm going to start stirring this up. Let's see, did I get the right amount of everything? Here's how you can tell. If you're stirring in it, it starts to get a little clumpy like me. That's actually a really good sign. If it looks too watery, then that means you might want to add a little more flour, just a little at a time. If it's too dry, like it doesn't look like mine at all, but maybe yours just looks like that, where it just looks like sand, try adding a little more water, but just a little at a time. Let's see, now we're gonna take it out and start kneading the dough. That means we're squishing, trying to combine all of these ingredients together. So I'm squishing and I'm kneading the dough. There we go. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can get the rest of this. Now that I have my dough made, I can start to work on the letters for my onomatopoeia. So I'm gonna go ahead and move my cooking supplies out of the way and get ready to work on that. If your dough, again, is too dry, add a little water. If it's too wet, add a little bit more flour. Okay, I've got my plaque ready, I've got my dough ready. Now let's take a look at these letters. How do you think I made these letters for my plaque? Did I use a sphere? Remember, we've talked about this a lot with clay. A sphere is a ball of clay. Did I use a slab, which is a squished piece of clay? Or did I use a coil? Oops, and if your clay starts to fall apart like mine, I'll show you what to do about it in just a moment. You're right, I used a coil. Okay, so I'm gonna think of a word. I think I want my word to be boom. I like that word, and I think it'll look good with this shape because it kind of looks like an explosion. So I'm just squishing my clay, and I'm gonna see if I can roll it into a sphere, roll it into a coil. If your clay starts to dry, mine's okay right now, add a tiny little bit of water and see if that helps. It's almost like your clay is thirsty and you want to add a little bit more water. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start rolling out some coils, but I'm not going to press the clay in just yet. The reason I'm going to wait is because I don't want to accidentally make my word too big or too small. So I want to make sure all of my letters look just right. So again, I'm starting with the sphere. Oh, it's a little dry. Good thing I know what to do. I'm gonna add a little bit of water, just a little finger bit, and then kind of massage or work that into the clay. Let's see if that helps. Oh yeah, much better. And now I'm just going to think about the shapes of a letter. I know that a B, that looks a little long, so I can pinch, make it a little shorter. There we go. So that would be a good P. That would work great for a P if I were doing a P, but I'm doing a B, so I need to add another curve like that. So just be thinking about what kind of curved lines. You're essentially making lines when you're making letters. So you're making those line letters with your clay. So be thinking about how you can construct and do that. By the way, when you're finished with this, you could always take more clay. If you have extra clay, and maybe make another plaque with your name on it. It could be a plaque with your initials or a special saying like love or kind or cute. So really, once you learn how to make these letters, the possibilities are endless. All right, I'm having to roll a long one. Sometimes if you have to roll long, you can always use the surface of your table. It really helps to have a piece of paper or something underneath so that it doesn't stick. Yeah, all right, now you know what I'm doing. I think I have enough space. I'm feeling pretty confident. I'm just very gently, ever so carefully, squishing the letters into the cardboard. And guess what? If they overlap a little bit, that's okay. If you see a dry spot, just rub a little bit of water into it. Okay, friends, listen up. You don't even have to add any glue. This is going to stick right to the board. That's right, isn't that amazing? So you don't have to worry about gluing it or adding anything like that because it'll stick all by itself. All right, so I'm just gonna finish up my letters and then talk about how to finish your plaque. Roll another O. I like to have my letters not be in a straight line, not be all perfect and neat, because they're also helping really show that onomatopoeia. So if something is booming or exploding, it's not gonna be all boom, nice and neat in lowercase. No, it's gonna be all capital letters with every letter going every which way. So that's definitely something for you to be thinking about. Woo, now listen, my M, I had a little trouble with that M. So I think it's easier if you do it in 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. 1, if you want to try bending, okay, that worked. So I just used one long piece of clay, squish that into my cardboard. But if you struggle or you have any troubles, just think about how you can break it up into smaller pieces. So I could have just done it like this adding a little line there, a little short line, and then a longer one there. So let's see if I can do that with this extra clay. Look at that! It's looking pretty good. Now, since this is on cardboard, let's not bake this in the oven to get it nice and hard. I don't think that would be a good idea. I don't want my crayon drawing to melt. But what you could do is set it outside if it's a sunny day. You could also just leave it in your house and let it dry. I made these the other day and they dried. The letters didn't crack. Ta-da! Okay, so this is dry. What I could do now with a marker is even add some lines. I love to add a little bit of lines to kind of show a cartoony look, but you'd want to do this when yours is all dry. Now to hang it up, I'm just going to use my hole punch. If you don't have a hole punch, you could always use a pencil. Pow! Boom! And then I'm going to add my hanger. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to show you how to make some letters if you don't have salt dough clay. So if you don't have any salt dough clay, but you still want to make an onomatopoeia, I will show you how to do it with construction paper. All right, now let's talk about how you can make 3D letters even if you don't have salt dough clay. So it's really easy to do. You'll just need some construction paper, or you could just get white paper and color it a couple of different colors. So for this one, I was using the primary colors that I could go ahead and glue to a background, or I could just leave it like this and finish it the way I did those with a hole punch and a hole punch. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let me go ahead and start by getting some paper. I'm choosing a couple of different colors, kind of like we did with our superhero. So think of some colors that you really like. These are the colors I'm using this time around. And the first thing I'm going to do is take two colors together and make this kind of background. So I'm gonna stack two contrasting or two totally different colors together, and I'm going to make a big cloud shape. Now you can make it any size you want to, but keep in mind that your word has to kind of fit inside of it. So you don't want to make it too little and you don't want to make it really big, although making it as big as your paper might actually not be a bad idea. I'm going to go kind of somewhere in between. I'm making a curved line, a group of curved lines. If it were something like pop or kaboom, you could do lines that are zigzag. So think about what your onomatopoeia is, and that'll help you decide what kind of line that you'll want to make your shape. I've got two papers together, and I'm going to go ahead and cut both of them out at the same time. It's a little tricky. There's a lot of curves, which is why I snip off some of that extra paper, because it bothers me when it bumps into my hand and gets in my way. It's all in my business, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut that out. Boop. Then it's also a little tricky because you're cutting through two pieces of paper. Good thing that you have very strong art-making hands. Okay, now that I have both papers cut out, check it out. Ooh, I've got that cool shadow effect like I do right there. So now that this is finished, let's talk about how to make your word. So I'm going to be using a pencil to draw with first. I think my word is going to be boom. So if my word is boom, the first thing I'm going to do is draw with a pencil using all capital letters, and I'm going to draw dark enough so that you can see, but you might want to draw lightly. That way you can erase, because we will be erasing these letters later. I'm drawing them big, and I'm also spreading them out a little bit. Notice they're not super close. Spreading the letters out. Now with a marker, you could do this with a pencil, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it with a marker. With a marker, I'm going to trace around the letters. So here's my B. I'm going to trace around the B. Notice how it's a lot bigger, and I'll put those small letter D looking shapes on the inside. There we go. That looks pretty good. That's a block letter, a big letter. So for my O, I see it's really close to my B, so I'm going to do some overlapping. But when it gets near the B, I stop. And I could leave it like this, but I'm going to go ahead and add an oval inside. I'll overlap this one. I'll even make the letters a little wonky. Remember, they're showing the sound, so I don't have to make them match or perfect. Now I'll make my M. So, and you don't even have to get perfectly around it. You're just making a block version, so think about how you can do that. To give them a three-dimensional look, go ahead and draw where you want a sunshine to be. Anywhere that's on the right side of the letter will be light. Any side that's the left side will be dark. So to create that dark side, I'm just adding a couple extra lines on any part that's the left. So this is the left side of my O. Just adding some extra lines. Here's the left side of this letter. So you might even want to take your hand like an L. Keep it nearby so you know what side is the shadowy left side. If you don't want to add a shadow, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You don't have to. All right, now I think I'm ready to cut this out. Now that I have it cut out, I can erase my pencil lines. I can glue everything down. But you might be wondering, what about those spots? If you have a little place that you want to cut into, you can just fold the paper, make a little snip with your scissors, open it, and then you're going to go ahead and cut it out. Now this is a little tricky. You just have to be a little slower when you're cutting, or you know what? You could just fill it in. You could leave it filled in. You could color it with your markers. And there you have it. That's how you can make your onomatopoeia with both construction paper and salt dough clay. If you liked this video, make sure you click to subscribe and give it a big thumbs up so more friends can follow along and make art too. Thanks, guys.